The Holy Grail. According to Christian myth and legend, it was the cup that Jesus drank from during his Last Supper, later repurposed to gather his blood at his crucifixion. According to medieval legend, King Arthur would coordinate grand expeditions for the cup as it was told to possess the power to heal all wounds and grant eternal happiness. Unknown to what the Grail took form of, we imagine the Grail as a golden cup decorated with silver and shimmering gems, but no one has ever seen the real Holy Grail, as centuries ago it just disappeared. This once sought after item thought to be that of the divine vanished, and it is one of history's greatest mysteries and legends. Like much of myth and legend, there are many tales that shadow exactly what the Holy Grail may be. Although it's commonly understood and theorized to have Christian origins and also lie within medieval myth, the tales and theories about the cup and how it disappeared is vast and makes it all the more illogical in my opinion. The Grail was said to come in different forms of dishware. It was even a goddamn plate made of stone. There's a controversial theory that the Grail was looted by Muslims and given to the Spanish due to tension between Christians and Muslims being high in Jerusalem, and even associated with the Fountain of Youth. I think this day and age, many people acknowledge that, like myth itself, the Holy Grail doesn't exist, and if it does, it doesn't have magical powers. It's probably a piece of art that found itself as a part of popular mythology and is a fun literature device. It's recognizable and there's a lot of history behind it, and myth is meant to be retold in different manners, so there's nothing stopping the creators from taking the myth/legend of the Golden Goblet and sculpting it into different forms. For example, no one said the Holy Grail couldn't be a wish granter, but in the vein of creative freedoms, it can be. So what is the Fate franchise for all of you uninitiated? Well, in 2004, development team Type Moon released an eroge visual novel titled Fate Stay Night. The game consists of 3 routes: Fate, Unlimited Blade Works, and Heaven's Feel. Anime adaptation started in 2006. The series will continue to be adapted onwards by many studios. The main adaptations covers the game's 3 main routes individually with full series or theatrical films. There are also spin-off adaptations that cover novels and manga written by different creators that serve to build the world and lore as Fate takes place across multiple timelines. Also, the goddamn mobile game that I know is a trap and I'm not falling for that shit. Which brings me to say, so I watched the entirety of the Fate franchise, and it was the worst thing I've ever done. Hello one and all, if you don't know who I am, well then you could call me Ari. God, how long has it been since I said that? So the basics, what is this, why am I doing this, and what can you expect from this video? Well, if you've been around this channel for the past month or so and saw my SCP video, this is basically that, just with Fate. But in case you haven't seen that video, this is basically gonna be me talking shit, and I feel to call this video a personal documentation of my experience with the Fate franchise because I didn't have a very good time, so I'm gonna be talking a lot of shit, spoiler alerts. Putting that very mean statement aside, this video is basically an outsider's perspective of a beloved franchise that I wrote while journeying through each installment of said franchise, and because of that, don't expect something serious as I have absolutely no passion for this franchise. I'm just doing this because the person responsible for this video happening asked me to do it, and in case you hate it, then go yell at him on Twitter. And because it's my video, I make the rules, so we're not going in order of release, we're not having any in-depth discussion of each installment, we're just doing it however the fuck I want to do it because I'm just gonna be salty and talk shit and cry every once in a while. Also, I technically didn't watch the entirety of this franchise. I skipped over Lolly Fate because you got me fucked up if you think I'm watching Magical Girl Fate. There's only so much patience I have for this shit. I cannot do 3 fucking seasons of more Fate. I also had to have a cutoff point somewhere, so I won't be going over Heaven's Feel, Case Files, or whatever you don't see me mention in this video. And again, if you hate this video, then go yell at the asshole on Twitter who made me do this video, or if you like this video, then praise him because my friend Wolf acted as my consultant and guide for this video, and despite as much shit as I talked, this video really wouldn't have been possible without him, so give him some love too, please. With that being said, we have a lot to cover, so we might as well get into it. Oh god, I can't wait to be done with this shit. It only feels right to start with Prototype because it's the beginning of it all. Dad and I have less savory things to say about the upcoming entries, but nobody has to know about that right now, so let's just get to this one. Prototype is a 12-minute OVA that you can watch here on YouTube. It's an adaptation not of the games or any light novels or spin-offs, but the inception of Fate itself. This is a glimpse of what Fate could have been. The original Fate was to have a female protagonist with a male servant, but the creators decided that the game would have sold better with a main lead and female servant, and obviously they were right about that. But there's still many elements of Prototype that carried over into the final product. You still have hints of the magic system and the war and all that jazz, but you have Gil here and he's exactly the same because that's the one idea the creators liked so much they decided to keep it, and oh my god, I'm so happy about that. All I really have to say about Prototype is that it's kind of cool to watch. It's neat seeing what could have been, fully animated and voice acted. The animation is solid. They weren't lazy on the look and feel of Fate just because it's a short OVA, but in order to fully understand this OVA, you have to have seen Fate, Zero, and UBW, and then you're golden. But you're also not required to watch Prototype. You watch it because you have 12 minutes and you're curious. But yeah, I think it's kind of swell and pretty neat that they made this. I'm not exactly going to rank it because I don't feel like it counts. After all, it's a prototype, and when it comes to the big boys, it's better off in its own little bubble. Okay, so before anyone asks why Sinners is on here, it's because Wolf told me to watch it, and god damn it, I fucking hate you, you piece of shit. I'm sorry, that was mean. I'm well aware that Sinners isn't a Fate entry, but a part of the Nasu-verse, but I'm also not questioning Wolf's judgment. After all, he was merciful enough to permit my skipping of Lolly Fate, which he also hates. It's easy for me to say I found Garden of Sinners painfully boring. Too easy, in fact. So, everything else I have to say about it other than that really isn't nice. For years before finding out what Fate was and just watching anime related videos on YouTube, all I ever heard about was how amazing Garden of Sinners was. The main character is so badass and sexy, the writing is good, the animation is beautiful, the series is alright from start to finish, but I quit 10 minutes into the second film because I fucking know. Sinners failed on every aspect for me. I'm not a fan of main characters like, I want to say your name is Bianca. Bianca here is one of those quiet, dark type amnesia characters with a past, and she fights evil ghosts and shit, and god, I was losing interest even as I typed that. So Bianca is emotionless and follows whatever this doctor tells her and fights ghosts and shit, and brain dead guy who gives her ice cream is also there. So in the first movie, Bianca fights this ghost who's causing mass suicides, and then the ghost is suicidal and kills herself, and the suicide stops. And then Dr. Lady has this boring convo about why people commit suicide, and in movie 2, Bianca is in high school with brain dead guy and we see her be crazy, and I quit. I knew that Bianca was a mass serial killer before reaching the halfway point of the first movie. Wolf didn't have to tell me that shit. I figured it out because the writing was just so on the walls. The power system isn't intriguing, the supernatural aspect is dull, brain dead dude is literally me watching this, and then there's Dr. Lady who's a doctor, and why are you not more attractive to me? In the dialogue. Oh, it's painful to read and I don't care. There's no banter, connection, emotions. It's just people on a screen talking and I don't care. I don't care about what's going on. I don't care about Bianca's purpose and why the doctor brought her back to life. I don't care about the mass killings or the ghost or brain dead guy. I don't care about these characters or what they're doing. There's 6 hours of my life here in this movie. 6 hours I could have spent watching them and hating myself, but I thankfully put those 6 hours towards something I enjoyed more. I not only found Sinners painfully boring, but I also found it incredibly weak. If you want a story about characters with spotty past finding redemption, watch Bungo Stray Dogs or Vinland Saga. If you want really good Japanese stories about suicide and death, read No Longer Human or a Murakami book. If you want hot-ass doctors that you want to wing to all night long, play fucking Persona 5. And if you want cool power systems with powerful main characters that will make you gay as fuck, then JoJo is on Netflix. So yeah, I obviously can't recommend Sinners because I downright hated it. It's too obvious, too predictable, and too r/I am very smart and I am very badass. I will be so glad when I finish editing this video and upload it because that means I will never have to talk about these goddamn movies. Dean's Stay Night is infamous. Chances are, if you've heard of Fate, you've also heard of fans condemning its first anime adaptation by Studio Dean from 2006. I watched 6 very long, very uninteresting episodes, but I admit I didn't hate them as much as I hated Sinners. I'll keep it brief because I'm positive that viewers would like for me to get on with it and move on to better entries, especially the Fate fans who surprisingly haven't clicked away yet. I understand where the hate and defense for Dean's Stay comes from. It suffers from the FMA versus FMA Brotherhood effect, but to a greater degree. There's already a much better version of the same show. However, the remake expects for you to see the original to understand the new stuff, and much like the original FMA, 2006 was given permission to have its own ending. I tried watching Dean because of this effect just to see what all the fuss was about, and let me tell you, it was definitely not good. This was the first installment I watched and my interest was very minimal. I tried, Dean, I did. I tried to give you a chance. I tried to like you. I wanted to finish you, but I only made it to episode 6 because I was watching the dub, and the dub also isn't fucking good because, oh god, early Sentai dubs. Dean's Stay Night isn't even mediocre, it's just poorly made. It's a failed attempt to adapt a visual novel, and for that reason, it doesn't suck and I do not hate it. It's not the best introduction you could have to the franchise and not one you should take. And yes, I've heard the defenders loud and clear, but the route I've chosen to go down the franchise after dropping Dean was much more appealing. If anything, what makes me feel so horribly about Dean's Stay Night is the dragon. That dragon didn't ask to be born, it didn't ask to exist. Hashtag stop bullying CGI dragons. When one is introduced to the Fate franchise and is looking for where to start, fans will often tell you to start with Zero. Fate Zero is the prequel to the events of UBW, not based on the game, but a light novel written by the Uro Butcher himself. Yep, that guy. Zero was absolutely not what I was expecting. After the complete boredom I suffered, I was convinced that I would hate this franchise forever and nothing would redeem it. Spoiler, I was mostly right on that theory. Looking back on Zero, I can no longer say I loved it, but I did heavily enjoy it. Kirisugu is the only Fate protagonist in my book. No other fucking protag matters. I can't even remember these fuckers' names. This is a man who was probably never fucking happy a day in his life. I mean, the fucking show starts with his wife giving birth to his only child and he comments on how he's going to murder her. What a way to welcome your child into the world. In the first episode of Zero, you immediately understand what you're getting into. This is not going to be a fun time. This version of Fate has consequences. It will contain characters who do not have a say, people will suffer, people will die, and spoiler, the Grail doesn't fucking work. So everything you witness will be for naught, and that's what's so good about it. I knew how Zero was going to end without even having to watch Dean's Stay. No shit, the Grail doesn't work and millions fucking die, leading to Kirisugu finding and adopting Shiro. But that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to see a man fight a senseless battle and lose everything. I want to meet and learn about these characters. I want to see them fail and suffer and die, leading up to the moment where they lose everything. Despite Zero being infamous for his tone, it was the little moments I remember the most. I like seeing Kirisugu play with his child and Saber and Aresvel chat over tea. I was positive Waver was going to die because he started off as such a shit, but then he became my favorite character along with Ryder, and the ending where Waver has to come to terms that Ryder is going to die in order to save his life, pleading his loyalty and calling him his king, that shit hurt. It hurt a fucking lot and I'm still not fucking okay. Then you have fucking Waver living with this nice old couple as their adopted grandson, and Ryder reminiscing about his time as a king while knocking Waver around is fucking adorable. The servants are definitely the best aspect of Zero. I love Ryder for his charisma. I love Saber for her regret and her heartbreak. And Jesus, why do Lancers always get the worst fucking death? My favorite part of the show is this scene where, and I couldn't believe this shit either, but the servants are fucking drinking and They decide to have a peaceful and friendly chat over a couple of rounds and discuss the wish they'll make, and Saber says that she'll wish to save her kingdom, and the kings call her a fool because kingdoms come and go, and it was only Saber who couldn't understand that. She gets called out on her shit, and she can't stand being told that she's wrong for not making peace with her past, and the other kings feel bad for her. This right here is the most human moment of Zero, and I will fight anyone who disagrees. I hardly remember any of the masters from Zero besides Kirisugu and his family, and shit, I don't even remember Gil's master anymore. I don't even remember the guy's name, and he doesn't even count. But the servants of Zero are way more fleshed out than the human characters of the show, and I will never forgive Bluebeard just for wanting to see the world burn, and Lancer getting the literal shit end of the stick. But this moment was the most important part of Zero to me. It completely shatters Saber and her character in a minute. She was a good and beloved king, but a king should be able to acknowledge their mistakes. And boy, speaking of mistakes being made, Saber is human, a flawed king, a flawed woman, and this was the moment that proved to me that the servants were by far better than any character in this show, and that Saber was so much more than King Arthur. I wanted to learn more about Arthur after this because she gained and lost so much character in this one episode. If anything, I think that this was the peak of her character throughout the entire franchise, because spoiler alert, I was greatly disappointed by the Saber and UBW. I mean, look, I get it, UBW is fucking Archer's story, but Jesus Christ, that was so painful how watered down she was. Honestly, I think certain seasons of Fate are worth watching for one moment alone, and Zero has several strengths that makes it a great standalone series. This scene of the kings drinking is the moment I will point to when recommending for people to watch Zero, because we all know who Saber is, but not the woman who ruled as King Arthur. But god damn it, I can't talk about Zero without talking about season 2, because I really feel like the show lost its momentum after taking out Bluebeard. Bluebeard was a great villain because he's simple. He just wants to watch the world burn, and that automatically makes him a good bad guy. But if you were to ask me to recall the rest of the show after his defeat, I really can't tell you. Admittedly, season 2 of Zero just kind of blended all together until its climax. Yeah, so look, I know I was singing Zero's high praises when starting this segment, and I still stand by what I said. I still think the fact that you know how it's going to end and everything being for mostly nothing is a great part of the show. These people suffering and dying just to get fucked is part of what makes this show such a great tragedy, but there were only certain moments that I actually cared about and remembered. Look, the grill doesn't work, and that's fine. I don't care that the grill doesn't work. I actually prefer the grill not working, but there was just something about the ending that left me feeling a little underwhelmed, and I think it was because I had to watch fucking UBW after that, and oh my god, UBW. But the buildup and fallout of Zero's climax was by far some of the best moments of the show, but despite my misgivings, it was still pretty fucking good. I love some of these characters and the story that they're given, and I want to watch it again at my own time and pace and re-witness it all. I didn't have fun with Zero, but it's not a show you're supposed to have fun with. And the Uro Butcher doesn't give a fuck about fun in his domain. But the brightest and darkest moments of Zero are some of the best moments I've had with this franchise, and I wish I could say that more about other installments before and after completing Zero, but it sadly went down fucking hill from here.